My name is Melissa Hart, and this is my final culminating assignment for Sociology 288. To start, as stated in Chapter 1 of the textbook, Ron Klassen, a modern-day champion of restorative justice, suggested, for example, that crime is primarily an offense against human relationships and secondarily a violation of a law, since laws are written to protect safety and fairness in human relationships. U.S. incarceration rates have risen, even though crime rates have fallen. Why is this happening? How can we explain this, and what types of solutions will help fix this issue? There are many possible reasons as to why this might happen. The criminal justice system has not always been fair to all. Society has turned to locking everyone up for all minor infractions. The United States has the largest population of prisoners in the entire world. Crime rates falling is not always a result of incarcerating more individuals. First, I am prepared to share with you all some of the reasons as to why incarceration has risen, even as the crime rates have fallen. I will then talk about how to explain this issue, and lastly, some solutions to this problem. Some reasons this happens include locking people up for nonviolent drug crimes, juveniles being locked up, criminal justice policies, and hardships after one is released. To start, firstly, locking people up for nonviolent drug crimes. There are mandatory minimum sentences for people who are arrested for drug crimes. These mandatory minimum sentences are increasing the rate of incarceration by having these people in prison for longer periods of time. Going all the way back to the war on drugs in 1982, America has been hunting down on all those using drugs and those who have an addiction. Locking all of these individuals up for these nonviolent crimes raises the incarceration rate as we are bringing more individuals into the criminal justice system while simultaneously bringing the crime rates down since these crimes are nonviolent. Next, juveniles. So many individuals are being put away for nonviolent crimes like juveniles. These nonviolent crimes include crimes of skipping school, one-time mistake crimes, and other minor infractions that should not be met with prison time. Like some of the kids in the Frontline and Caught podcast, they are being locked up for every single mistake that they make, even if it is small. Locking up all of these kids is not making the crime rates go down. It is just making law enforcement arrest them over and over again. The main purpose of incarceration is to keep the community safe. Why are we locking up juveniles that skip class too many times instead of helping them? Next, I want to look into the criminal justice policies set forth. One huge reason to explain this idea of one rate rising and the other falling is the different criminal justice policies that are put in place. The changes in sentencing and law enforcement is a huge part of this idea. Minimum prison sentences are rising as society believes that locking people up longer will keep this community safer. This just tends to lead to higher conviction rates, in turn leads to higher incarceration rates. Lastly, the many hardships after one is released. Specifically, some kids that are released after prison, they have a hard time adjusting back to their normal lives. Some may not be able to go to their usual public school or even be able to do some of the same things their friends like to do. Z from the podcast series Caught really recaptures these ideas. Z was not able to go back to his regular public school after his releasement because he was labeled with anger management issues. He was not able to receive the same chances as other kids because he was labeled as a felon and was labeled as someone with an illness. For adults, it is much harder for these individuals to get jobs once they are released. They are specifically targeted when applying for jobs. They have to mark down that they are a felon. Being labeled as a felon really makes it hard for these people to get back to their normal lives. Not being able to smoothly transition into their lives again may result in some nonviolent crimes to try to return to their lifestyle. This, again, rises the incarceration rates as crime rates are going down. As stated, there are a wide variety of reasons as to why the U.S. incarceration rate has raised while crime rates have fallen. Next, I would like to discuss how to explain this fact and some solutions to help this growing problem. All in all, incarceration rates are rising while the crime rate is falling because we are not putting enough emphasis on different reasons as to why this is specifically happening. We need to start putting more emphasis on rehabilitation, juveniles, policies and standards after one is released, and this will help to reduce the amount of people going back into prison. If the United States stops locking up so many people in response to all the acts, the rates should go down. If we start using other forms of sanctions like treatment, counseling, and helping our recently released felons, we may start to see a decline in these incarceration rates. Incarceration cannot be the response of every social problem we face as a country. If this is addressed, these rates should be going down together. Lastly, I have several solutions that can help to solve this issue. Some of my suggestions include more treatment for substance abuse, helping to respond to delinquency in young adults, and removing some restraints on those individuals who are just released from prison. To start, shifting resources to community-based prevention and treatment for substance abuse. Recidivism plays a huge role, if not one of the largest roles, in the incarceration rates rising. Recidivism is a tendency of a convicted criminal to reoffend. The main reason that criminals are punished for their crimes is to first keep the community safe and to try to prevent them from reoffending. As stated in the article How Republicans Pivoted from the War on Drugs to Cutting Prison Sentences from one of our discussion boards, revising the criminal justice system will save money by moving people convicted of low-level offenses out of prison and into programs that will specifically help reduce the recidivism rate. Rehabilitation and treatment should be a sanction given to those who are fighting addiction, drug abuse, and mental illnesses. Keeping some of these people who are locked up for drug crimes or have a mental illness because of prison will completely help the issue of those incarceration rates rising. If they receive the help they need, these individuals in society can steer away from the criminal justice system and get back to their normal lives. My second solution involves promoting strong youth development and help responding to delinquency in young adults. Our young youth individuals are the future of this world and are the ones society is going to have to rely on. To better help with this issue of locking youth up, the criminal justice system needs to have programs set up to help respond to youth deviance and delinquency. As talked about in the Frontline video, the United States is taking funding away from education, health and human services, and family services just to try to balance out the costs for incarceration. These services are the ones that help people stay out of prison. Education is vital to growing and success. Youth need to be supported by having these services to work out their problems early. Helping the youth stay clear of the criminal justice system early is key to helping society stay safe. In turn, this will help the rate of incarceration lower, along with the crime rate. The response to youth delinquency should not be to lock them up. They need to be supported and have a strong foundation. My last solution involves removing different standards that make it hard for individuals with records to return to their lives. When members of society are released, they are held at a much higher standard than others. They are expected to find and hold a full-time job, meet with their parole officer, and stick to a curfew. I believe that we should be removing some of these standards or be more lenient when coming to these individuals. It is hard enough for them to return back to society with their freedom, but to hold them at a much higher standards than all others is unfair. Removing some of these standards will help reduce recidivism rates and in turn reduce incarceration rates. Most of these individuals do not attempt to commit a violent crime again, but they do not have the resources necessary to stay at a stable lifestyle. As I near the end of my video entry, I hope you can all see how this problem truly is a growing issue. This issue is one that needs to be supported from several different aspects of the criminal justice system. The U.S. incarceration rate is rising while the crime rates have fallen. Some reasons, as discussed, as why this may be happening is locking people up for nonviolent drug crimes, juveniles being locked up, criminal justice policies, and hardships after one is released. Some solutions involve shifting resources to community-based prevention, promoting strong youth development, and removing attributes that make it hard for individuals released to return to their lifestyle. This problem is not something that is going to be fixed overnight, but this is something the United States needs to work on vigorously to help. The United States must change aspects of our criminal justice system now to stop this issue from continuing.